Trying to fix yourself often feels necessary. It feels honest, responsible, like you're taking ownership. You notice patterns you don't like, habits that don't work, ways you think you should be different. So you start monitoring yourself, your thoughts, your behavior, your reactions. And at first this feels productive. You're paying attention, you're aware, you're trying. But over time, something subtle shifts. Awareness becomes pressure. Observation becomes judgment. And self-improvement starts to feel heavy, not because change is impossible, but because the relationship with yourself has changed. When you try to fix yourself, you create a split. There's a version of you that is acceptable, and a version that isn't. That split introduces tension. Every action gets evaluated. Every thought gets questioned. Every pause feels suspicious. The nervous system doesn't interpret this as growth. It interprets it as threat. Not external threat, internal threat. The system senses that parts of it are being rejected, so it protects itself. Motivation drops. Energy pulls inward. Change becomes harder, not easier. This is why self-fixing often leads to exhaustion. The system is spending energy defending itself instead of exploring new behavior. Awareness is not neutral. How it's held matters. When awareness is curious, the system opens. When awareness is corrective, the system closes. Self-fixing turns awareness into surveillance. You're always watching for mistakes, always adjusting, always trying to stay ahead of failure. That constant monitoring narrows attention. It reduces flexibility. It limits experimentation. The brain learns best through play and feedback, not correction under tension. So instead of changing, the system stabilizes. It holds its current pattern because that feels safer than being constantly evaluated. Change doesn't come from fixing. It comes from understanding without rejection. When the system feels accepted, it doesn't need to defend itself. When it doesn't need to defend itself, it can adjust. This is why real change often happens quietly. Not through effort, not through discipline, but through insight that removes internal conflict. Once conflict softens, movement follows naturally. Trying to fix yourself isn't wrong. It's an attempt to feel better. But improvement doesn't come from pressure. It comes from alignment. And alignment only happens when the system feels safe enough to shift. If self-improvement has felt exhausting, that's not a failure of effort. It's a sign that correction has replaced understanding. You don't change by fixing what's wrong. You change when nothing inside you needs to be defended anymore.